Just wanted to welcome you all to the 2025 Winnsboro Night of Percussion. As you can see, we're using almost every piece of equipment we have here at the high school. It takes a lot of logistical management to make this thing happen relatively smoothly. But in between each piece, there will be a couple minutes of resetting all the ensembles. All right, tonight we will be opening up with our 7th and 8th grade symphonic band percussion ensemble. They will be playing a little mambo titled Mambo Shmambo. Right, and they've been killing it. They don't need a conductor. They're just going to take it away and knock this one out by themselves. All right, so again, thank you all for coming out on a Thursday night to check us out. This is something very different than what most people get to see. Not many people have ever been to a percussion-specific concert before. So anytime you feel like clapping or applauding, please do so. And I hope you enjoy it. This is Mambo Shmambo. So as you can see, it doesn't take just a lot of logistical management with equipment, but it also takes a lot of teamwork and a lot of hand-eye coordination to play a lot of these parts. You will see tonight one person playing many different instruments at one time, so it doesn't just take a lot of focus as it would on, say, a wind instrument where you're playing just your buttons and you're reading your notes. You have to know where to hit the instrument, how to hit the instrument, what implements to use. So it's a pretty cool skill set to learn at a young age, because as you get older, you never know what kind of problems you run into, and you have to think for yourself and get through that. I wanted to acknowledge two people from that group. If y'all run out onto the floor whenever I call your name, Kristen Floyd and River Salyer, who's ducking and running right here. Come out here. Our region is a very special region in the state, our musical region anyway. A lot of the band directors know each other really well, but we're also really competitive with each other because we're all really good friends. And through that, we have a lot of competition in our region, especially in the percussion area. But these two were selected out of almost 100, I think it was over 80, junior high students to make region band. So give it up for them. And it's a really big deal, not only to make the region band, but to make the region band as 7th graders. So. All right, this next percussion ensemble up on the list. Does anyone in here particularly like bluegrass as much as I do? All right, I love some bluegrass. If you're familiar with Bela Fleck and the Fleck Tones, this is one of his pieces entitled Metric Lips. This ensemble is also one of the ensembles that got selected to go compete at the state level for solo and ensemble. All right, I hope y'all enjoy our rendition of Metric Lips. So another challenge about being a percussionist in any program is the insane amount of content that they all have to learn. The high school alone has learned well over an hour of music this semester. That's not including all the marching band show music. That's 10 minutes of music alone. But in general, the high school percussion section has learned a little over an hour of music, and I think that pretty much goes for the junior high as well. So they have to learn their percussion ensemble stuff. Some of them learn solos. They have to learn their competitive concert band music, as well as spring concert music. It's a never-ending cycle for this kind of ensemble. So I want you, if you don't mind, give it up for them and all the insane amount of work they put into this. All right, so we're battling some air conditioning issues, and it's blown. Most of them have multiple pages of music to learn, and it was getting blown off the stand, so we just had to make some quick adjustments. So this is the combined 7th and 8th grade percussion ensemble, both the concert band and the symphonic band. The challenge with this one is they are 2 separate classes, so we've had to learn our parts in different groupings, and we've come together, 2 or 3 times? Yeah, we've rehearsed this together as a group 2 times, so that is definitely one of the challenges of doing a combined percussion ensemble with 2 different classes. So this next group up is the combined 7th and 8th grade percussion section, right? They will be playing a tune called On Thin Air. set change. This next tune that is coming up is, it's a lot different than most percussion ensembles that people have seen in the past. If you have seen a percussion ensemble, it will feature one bass, it's 3 members playing one bass drum. They each have a set of bongos, and they each have a tom drum, right? And it is basically a timing coordination exercise with a heavy backbeat or a heavy groove. So whenever they're set up and ready to go, I'll tell you a little bit more about them. And we are almost there. So these guys like to hit the drums really hard. For our indoor group, our indoor drumline group, these 3 are our snare drummers, and the 2, if you notice, there's 2 really tall guys. I think the most common comment I've made to them all year is like, hey, can we hit the drum a little less loud? So much so that whenever they were doing their region solo and ensemble competition, Zane hit the drum so hard it literally fell off the stand in the middle of the performance, and the judge had to stop him because he tried to perform through it and airplay a non-existent drum, and then he had to pick it back up, put it back together, and start where they were. It was awesome. Alright, this is another one of our ensembles that has qualified to go to state solo and ensemble. This is a really dynamic piece. It will be loud, it will be in your face, and it's really fast and high energy. So as soon as they're ready to go, I hope you enjoy Cruising Through Fire. All right, y'all. Yeah, that one will make them sweat. Make you sweat and then sweat. All right, that was a lot to put together, and they put it together in quite a short amount of time before they had to do their first round of competition. I also want to acknowledge that these two guys are seniors and Dylan is a freshman, so. All right, this next one that we're going to do for y'all is not in the program. This is kind of something that I think we thought of today. Yeah, so our next two performers are going to state solo and ensemble with individual solos, but they put it together in a way that they can play the piece together in a very interesting way, almost like a duet where they split some parts up and also play some parts together. So, all right, this solo, normally a solo, is called Rain Dance, right? And this is Maddie and Zach on, in this case, duet marimba. As soon as they're ready to go, they will take this off on their own. Again, that was put together today, and between all of their other classes and everything else going on, they made that decision this morning, asked me this afternoon, and then put it together themselves. So give them another round of applause. The next one up on the list is our 6th grade percussion section. These are our beginners. So once again, this is our beginner percussion studio. It randomly worked out last year that we have all females in the percussion studio this year, so that's pretty cool. What we're about to perform is about as far different than what we've done the entire school year in class. Normally we're either learning snare drum parts or we're learning mallet parts. It isn't until the latter half of the spring that we get to break up and really learn what percussion sections do. Normally in the past with my 6th graders, I have to say this class is incredibly proficient at playing percussion, which is why I was able to challenge them with a 12 individual part percussion ensemble piece. Normally in the past, I've had to do a bucket tune where they all get out and jam out on buckets, and it's like usually like maybe 2 parts, very straightforward. But this class has excelled far more than any of my percussion classes in the past as far as beginners. So I thought it'd be appropriate to really challenge them and throw a legit piece of percussion work at them. This is essentially what you would call a percussion orchestra piece, since we're using so many different instruments. Nobody is doubling anything, they're all playing their own individual parts. So I hope you enjoy our rendition of a piece called Again, and I said again a lot in the last couple weeks. I'm being told that I need to enunciate more, so my apologies if my Cajun tone is not cutting through like it should. I cannot begin to describe how proud I am of this group of kids. Earlier today during rehearsal and just now, I started getting goosebumps because this thing's getting so locked in. It is really impressive that they were able to accomplish what they are able to as such young people. On top of learning their spring concert music, this isn't the only thing we've been working on. We've been working on a whole another concert worth of music coming up soon. Alrighty, so give it up for the 6th graders one more time. Alrighty, I just wanted to acknowledge, not only does it take a lot of individual work and a lot of logistical management, but it also takes a decently pretty penny to have a good percussion studio, right? These marimbas used are usually right around $3,000. For a good brand new set, they're around $5,000 to $10,000 for this size, right? These are the smallest version that they make as far as marimbas go. They go all the way up to 5 octave, which are usually $15,000 to $25,000. And they're usually made out of endangered wood. Just this glockenspiel, we were very blessed to have a solid fundraiser this year, and we were able to obtain this brand new glockenspiel for the junior high specifically, but I'm gonna take it back and forth. But just that glockenspiel alone was right around $3,000 to get and that's a decent one. A nice one is around $6,000. Right? We have 2 more set changes. Right? This last percussion ensemble will be the combined high school percussion ensemble. We're bringing back another Bella Fleck tune. So if you hadn't had enough bluegrass yet, you're about to get your money's worth. This is one that we started putting together last week. So it's pretty cool. It features quite a few different instruments. We're going to have some drum set. We're going to have some bass guitar. And we're also going to have Gabe Poole playing the soprano saxophone. This piece calls for 3 triangles, because why wouldn't it? One of the nice things about these Yamaha instruments is they have hydraulic adjusters. So for the non-vertically challenged, it's a quick just turn of a knob and they can get them almost as high as they need to go. I also wanted to acknowledge that this will be Mr. Spitz's first time playing drum set for one last acknowledgement. Mr. Henry over here, he's been playing the bass guitar for just a few months, and he came to me one day, he's like, hey, I really want to learn the bass guitar. And we sat down for a few minutes, and I showed him some very basics, finger positions, how to hold the guitar, how to basically plug the strings properly, and taught him some basic exercise patterns. And he has taken it and absolutely ran with it. And he has become incredibly proficient at the bass guitar in a very short amount of time. So. He'll also be featured again in the very next piece with our indoor drum line. Please stick around for that. If you've never seen an indoor drum line, it is very much like marching band, but we do it in here on a floor. We have a big speaker system, so you'll get plenty of sound in your face. Alrighty, for our second to last performance today, we have our combined high school percussion section on another Bella Fleck tune called Big Country. Yeah, if you've heard banjo parts before, who would have thought that they would translate so well to a marimba part? So thank y'all for putting that together in such short notice. Thank you, Gabe, for joining us. Gabe got the music yesterday, so. All right, we have one last transition. We will be setting up for the indoor program. This takes a lot of equipment, a little bit of background on the activity. There are groups, hundreds of groups all over the country that compete in what we call indoor drumline. There are different competitive circuits, but one of them leads to WGI Finals, which is in Dayton, Ohio. Some of our competition from the season actually got to go and compete at in Dayton, Ohio, and we were hanging with them all season. This is our first time. I think a few years ago, Winnsboro did an indoor program, but it was all standstill. This year we did a marching version of the indoor program. We competed in Dallas quite a few times, many late nights getting back. So whenever you're competing in this activity, you have 9 minutes to get this floor unfolded, get everything set up, plugged in, perform your show, unplug everything, and get off the floor. You have to do it in under 9 minutes. So there's a lot of pressure and a lot of teamwork that goes into preparing for this kind of activity. Not only that, but it takes many, many hours of rehearsal to get this done. People think indoor drumline, oh, it must be easier than marching band, but there's so much more that takes place in this kind of activity. So we ended up going to championships and actually placing second in our class for our first time around. To come out of nowhere and never have done an indoor program before and to just be relevant on the score sheet is a pretty cool thing, let alone go out and beat groups that have done this for a long time. On top of that, some of the most world-renowned percussion directors were our judges a couple times, and whenever they judge us after the performance, I go and meet with the judges and we go through a critique. They tell us what we need to work on. They tell us what they think about the show. And a couple of these judges absolutely raved about us. They were just like, I don't understand why you aren't competing in a class far above where you are. It's really cool what we've been able to pull off this season. It has been a lot of effort. But that effort has paid off, and I think everyone here has learned a lot about how to do this activity and what other groups go through. Normally staffs for groups our size, there's usually about 5 people working with the group, and we were able to get it done with just our own teamwork, right? So that's also pretty cool. We will be set up shortly. We just got to get the speakers out and got to get power to the system, and we'll rock the house, and we will be done for the night. So once again, thank y'all for being patient, and we will continue with the indoor show very shortly. All right, and before we conclude for the night, I just wanted to give a thanks to, first off, all of you for coming out and giving us a reason to perform to not a blank wall. So thank y'all for coming out tonight. We really appreciate it. Thank you to the parents of these great kids who get them to and from where they have to go. I know that takes a lot of effort, so thank y'all so much. Thank you to the admin for allowing us to do these kinds of programs and for granting us the funding to get it done. And thank you to the other band directors for all the support y'all had all season. Mr. Mertz, I see you. Thank you. And also to the coaches for allowing us to occasionally come in here and use the facility. We were in many different places. We were in the parking lot. We were on the football field. We tried doing it in the cafeteria. And finally, we got some time to get in here and get this thing done correctly. Right? This show is called Focal Point. Right? It is about focusing, obviously, through distractions, through working together. The ballad is more of a Zen-like focus. So, and then we have focal points where we feature certain soloists. So I hope you all enjoy the 2025 second place finishing Winnsboro Indoor Percussion and their production Focal Point. wanted to acknowledge a few people. Raise your hand if you do not typically play a drum or a percussion instrument. Also, raise your hand if you are in junior high. Again, it takes an army to do this activity, and we're a small one, and we're a mighty one. So thank y'all so much for all the hard work this season. It has been an absolute dream come true to be able to do this, and it's been an absolute dream to get to work with the Winnsboro ISD percussion program. So thank y'all. And for the last time, thank the Lord, we get to not fold this floor ever again after tonight. All right, thank y'all so much for coming out and supporting tonight. I hope y'all enjoy it and be safe getting home.